Hello, and welcome to Creating Psychological Safety webinar. My name is Lisa Schaefer, and I am an NICC coach, speaker, and trainer in the area of leadership development and soft skills. And I'm excited to present something that I think is becoming essential and important right now in our companies and in our organizations as well as in ourselves. We are talking a little bit about this idea of psychological safety. And oftentimes we focus on physical safety, making sure that our organizations, our manufacturing companies are OSHA regulated and people are physically safe. But what I want to talk about is exploring more of the psychological safety and the importance of it. And one of the big things I want to talk about is just what are our expectations. We've been doing more and more Zoom calls. We've been doing a lot of Zoom trainings. And I was sent this by one of my colleagues reminding me that really during some of these Zoom types of things, as organizations, we have to have expectations that are realistic. So what the joke on here says that the actual meeting content is about 2%. So the 2% that I want us to learn today and the goals that I have for us in this 30-minute program is to focus on what it is to be psychologically safe and what are some steps that we can take to create a psychologically safe culture within our businesses. The first thing that we really have to look at in psychological safety is what our needs are. And what we find out is oftentimes we have a human need to have an image. And we have this image that we try to protect. We have this image that we try to portray. And oftentimes this image can keep us focused on missing opportunities, because the big thing with humans is nobody wants to look ignorant. Nobody wants to look incompetent. Nobody wants to be seen as nosy or intrusive. And nobody wants to come across as negative. And in organizations that don't have psychological safety, we have a tendency to want to protect this. And when nobody wants to look ignorant, incompetent, intrusive, or negative, we do things to manage those needs. So we might not ask questions. Oftentimes people are like, just don't say anything. We don't admit weaknesses or show vulnerability. We don't offer ideas because what if it's a stupid idea? Or we offered an idea once before and somebody said, well, that was the dumbest thing we've ever heard. Or we tried that 5 years ago and it didn't work. Those types of things are shutting down our psychological safety. The big thing too is we don't want to be seen negative. We want to be seen as part of a team player. So we don't criticize sometimes the status quo. We've always just done it that way. And when we get into the mindset of we've always just done it that way, we again are robbing each other of some learning. And this type of organization that uses this type of management system, don't ask, don't tell, don't admit, don't offer, we don't innovate. And what we need at this time during this COVID situation is to innovate. We need to be creative. We have to get into our problem-solving capabilities. And with this type of organization, if we're stuck in trying to protect this image, you will see what they call the iceberg of ignorance. Again, oftentimes staff might see all of the problems. But the team leaders don't want upper management to know about it. Or, the team managers are like, let's just deal with it. With an organization that has psychological safety, they're opening up the opportunity to evaluate processes and what has been. And because of our current situation, our teams are having to be much more productive, much more effective than they've ever had to be before. And one of the things that people always talk about, well, do better teams make fewer mistakes? We're human. We make mistakes. What makes a better team is the ability to be able to own that mistake, try to fix it, learn from it, and move on. And during this situation, the biggest questions I want you to be asking yourself, what's working? What isn't working? What do we need to do differently? And, have we thought about trying this next time? I'd like to hear from people that have done this type of situation. What's been going on from your perspective? So teams that have psychological safety feel as though they can take some ownership if a mistake is made. They try not to hide it. They don't get into what we call this blame storming, where I've got to protect my ego and I don't want to be the one that looks ignorant, so I'm going to blame other people. But we own it and say, yeah, you know what? I did make a mistake here. Or, you know what? Maybe this wasn't the best decision at this time, but it was a decision that we made at that time. Let's fix it. What worked? What didn't work? What do we need to learn from it so that we can change it? And that is what makes psychological safety within a good team. If you are, again, using those mistakes as positive learning opportunities. Of course, psychological safety as we define it is really this belief system that we have that it's okay. It's okay to share some concerns. It's okay to speak up about mistakes. It's okay to hold others accountable without the fear of being punished or humiliated. You know, oftentimes we avoid trying to get in trouble. We might jump into our child psychology that basically says, oh my gosh, don't admit it, wasn't me, must have been somebody else. And again, that psychological safety says, you know what, let's just own it. What did we learn from it? And again, that becomes the key piece. Now, how do we create it? The biggest thing right now is that we have to recognize the human needs and the fear. There is a lot of times people say, well, I can't say that. I can't do that. I can't show vulnerability because they're expecting me to be this. Oftentimes, people are expecting you to be genuine. People are expecting you to have a transparent leadership style where you can acknowledge and recognize maybe some of the fears that you're having as well as the fears of your staff. As an organization, one of the things that is working right now is this idea of trying to share some information. You know, employees are feeling a little bit anxious. They're feeling fearful. They're scared about what's happening. They're scared of bringing it home. We've got to acknowledge and recognize those fears, asking people how they're doing. You know, I realize this is a very stressful time for you. I realize that you're trying to, you know, still do your job from home, but also homeschool. I realize that you're an essential person and you may have some fear coming into the workplace. Let's just talk a little bit about those. Share that information. And again, let them know, you know, hey, I'm a little bit fearful too. This is new for us. We've never been here before. But we're going to work through this. So again, having that acknowledgement of that fear. The other thing we want to talk about is really just, it becomes really important right now to share our benefits, share the information on benefits in the team. What are you currently doing as a company? You know, one of the big benefits that I think is underutilized because people have a stigma around it is the employee assistance programs, or what we call the EAPs. Many organizations have those, and those EAPs, of course, you can have counseling and financial support. And the big misconception is people think if they call the EAP, then somebody's going to find out and their image is going to be ruined. That's just in contrary. EAP doesn't actually report back to the company who called. They just give a number of how many people have utilized it. So again, letting people know about that EAP, and also even your benefits, you know, for sick leave, or, you know, for people who have been exposed and have to stay home. You know, look at your attendance policies. If your attendance policies, is there some flexibility in it? That helps create some psychological safety instead of, oh my gosh, you know, I have to do this. It just mounts more fear. Some organizations that I'm seeing right now are creating a sick leave share account. So, you know, there may be some people who are out of days. And again, other people are sharing those days because they are experiencing some type of one illness or having to, you know, care for others. So again, be aware of that and try to let go of some of those negative attendance policies. And again, people are like, oh, whoa, that people are going to take advantage of us. That's a fear. Again, oftentimes, if people feel as though they're psychologically safe, they're not out to, again, get the company. How to create it, reframe it. Again, reframe COVID as a learning opportunity. You know, we've never seen this type of situation before. We don't know what to expect. We don't know what this is going to look like. Just acknowledge that. And one of the big things that I see companies doing right now is a lot of CEOs are giving some messages. They're recording messages to understand the situations within the organization. This is Dr. Wee, of course, the president of NICC, and he did a great message, just kind of recognizing individuals. So I'm going to just play a clip of Dr. Wee. And again, Dr. Wee is great at talking a little bit about the situations and the ethics of the situations, our core values within NICC, and again, highlighting some of those things. You're seeing more and more messages come across. Again, this was a message from Nestle, and he shared a little bit about his philosophies and talked about the 3 areas that they're going to be focusing on in regards to, again, safety. Safety was their first core value, and it was their first procedure. Second was business continuity, and third was providing a helping hand. So again, a quick look from the Nestle CEO's message. Again, these are great strategies. You can check these out, but taking time to do a video message just to kind of share, especially since more people are working remotely and in larger companies, hearing from the leaders become important as to what we're doing and what's happening and what we can do to move forward. The big thing as well with psychological safety is creating transparency again. We've got to talk about the why. Why are we considered essential? There's a lot of frustration right now of why am I essential or why am I not essential? And the fear that comes with that. So we've got to be transparent, communicate why. Well, here's why we're doing it this way. Here's what we're hoping for. This is why you are considered essential. And also talk about how it's important with our physical as well as our psychological safety. We're concerned. We've been provided services. We're going to be disinfecting every night. We're going to be going through this process. We're going to be checking temperatures at the door. We're going to be limiting contractors coming in. Again, let them know of what the current procedures you're doing to create that psychological safety. And then again, we're going to be implementing that SOPs that focus on social distancing and really the CDC recommendations that we're going to be working through. So, and let people know, this is changing by the day. It might even be changing by the hour. And we're doing the best that we can with what we have going on at the time. Being honest, your employees aren't the only ones dealing with stress. What are you feeling? What I'm showing you right here is kind of that traumatic experience that happens, a grief cycle that happens. We are going through somewhat of a traumatic experience because our ways of living have been disrupted, and our productivity is going to experience a little bit of downtime because of the fact that we're going through that frustration. We're going through confusion. Oh my gosh, I have to learn how to do Zoom. I have to learn how to do things differently. I have to take extra time now to sanitize. It's a lot of confusion that starts to happen. And sometimes, again, your productivity is going to go down. But as you start to re-engage and the new norm becomes a part of your procedures, you're going to start to get that engagement back. So trying to be as honest as possible, especially on what behaviors are working. Communicate as frequently as possible. This is the key time now to communicate, and not just necessarily in an email. Call, do some video conferencing, do some Zoom, have some fun with it a little bit. A couple companies that I've been talking with have been sending out Zoom bingo cards, and every Zoom call that you get on, you get a chance to get a bingo, and then they send you out some company swag just as kind of a lightheartedness. Again, reassuring that things are changing, and letting them know, this is frustrating, and I realize this is frustrating. We're doing the best that we can with what we have. So again, having that empathy and communicating as frequently as possible, but short and sweet and succinct, because again, 2% of that message is what people are going to be retaining. Give workers a little bit more control. Given some autonomy, being able to set some of their schedules. If they're still going into the organization, being able to reorganize their workstation for more safety. What are they seeing that's going to be helpful for them to stay safe psychologically as well as physically? Letting them kind of set the deadlines, asking them, when can you get this for me? How committed are you to make this happen? And these are some phrases that help create psychological safety. What would it take to make this happen? When do you think you can make this happen by? What can we do to streamline this process? How would you like me to hold you accountable? Those are key questions that engage somewhat of control, because people have a strong need to be in control. And the minute we feel out of control, that's when, again, more of the fear, the anxiety, all of that starts to set in. So if we can give them a chance to control some of their environment, some of their workflow, it will increase psychological safety within our culture. The big thing as well as a supervisor and as a leader is to truly use empathy and do not minimize somebody's emotions. I hear this often. Oh, well, they shouldn't be worrying about that. It's not that big of a deal. We have it under control. Recognize that they're worrying about it. You can basically say a statement, this is frustrating and many people are feeling this way. This is what we're doing. This is what's working. Or again, what would you do differently? Giving them a chance to have that empathy and that sense of control is essential during traumatic situations. The other big thing too is start to delegate. And there's 6 different levels of delegation. And they look at anything from, do as I say. So again, or, go look into this for me. Look into this for me, give me your advice, and then I'll decide. Or, explore, decide, and check back with me what you're going to do. Or explore, decide within these limits. Or, just go get it done. I don't care how you do it, just do it. So again, being able to delegate. And when you're able to delegate in a way, letting them know, this is the way I'm going to delegate. I'd really like you to look into this for me, bring me back some information, and then we can make a decision together. Or, look into this for me, give me some recommendations, and then I'll make a decision. Or just, go do this. That delegation and that sense of control is not only helping the leader, because that's freeing up some time for the leader to really focus on, some of the changes that need to be made in your SOPs, but it's also, empowering people, because people also have a need to feel as though they're significant and making a contribution. So if you're working with kids, delegate things to your kids. I have a lot of parents that are delegating things because they're working and trying to teach at the same time, trying to be homeschooled. They're delegating a whole bunch of things that they never used to delegate before. So again, focus on that delegation. The other big thing too is this idea is people always say, well, is psychological safety lowering my standards? No, it's not. It's giving you a chance to ask each other, how can I hold you accountable? Which way would you like me to hold you accountable? It's about really looking at accountability as well. So what this chart looks at is if you have high psychological safety, but low accountability, people are going to get stuck kind of in their comfort zone and they're going to just kind of do what they've always done. If you have low psychological safety and low accountability, people are going to be apathetic. Well, somebody else will take care of it. Well, this isn't my, issue to worry about. Well, that's not my job. The apathy zone is where the it's not my job comes out. So, if you start hearing things, well, that's above my pay grade, or, that's not my job. Alert, you are in low psychological safety and you are low accountability right now. And we've got to shift that culture. Then if you see high accountability but low psychological safety and you're constantly demanding things, then you get into anxiety zone. That anxiety zone lowers your productivity because now you have people fretting over things and worrying too much about things. And if it's not perfect, they don't want to get it done, but they know they're being held accountable. What if I do it wrong? I don't want to make a decision because what if it's not the right decision? And they hem-haw and they stew and they overanalyze so that there's no decision that ever is made. That is anxiety zone. They know they're going to be held accountable for it, and that becomes stress. Where we want to get you is to this learning zone where it's okay to, hey, just go try it. Tell me what worked, what didn't work, what do you need to do different? We're trying it now. You're seeing a lot of people jumping into the psychological safety, especially as you're finding new ways of doing things. We're having to adapt to the Zoom situations. We're having to adapt to technology. We're having to adapt to our teaching styles. Again, treat it as a learning opportunity. You know, what do you think is going to work? What's going to work for you? What's worked for others? Asking some of those questions, building that accountability with it. But I'm also going to hold you accountable. You know, again, how would you like to hold me, or how would you like me to hold you accountable? Asking those questions help create that psychological safety. If you're looking for additional resources on this, Great Places to Work has an excellent guide to help create some emotional and physical safety during a crisis. So you can definitely check out that link of greatplacetowork.com. There's also the article of psychological safety, and again, the key to worker happiness and team productivity. They have some great tips and tricks on there. And then, of course, the Society of Human Resource Management also has some resources for how do we reassure employees who are worried about the coronavirus. Again, there's a lot of anxiety because people are uncertain. We like uncertainty, but we also like certainty. So again, acknowledging those fears, acknowledging those pieces. As we look at psychological safety, the big goal is to really, again, be honest, be transparent, be empathetic, address people's fears, don't minimize people's fears, and kind of show support that, you know, again, we don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to do our best with what we have to keep us moving forward. And having kind of that hope message becomes important and reassuring as well. And I always like to tell the story about psychological safety on a plane. How many of you have ever been on a plane and you've experienced a little bit of turbulence and you're bouncing around a lot and you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, I might die. This is crazy. And all of a sudden the pilot comes on the microphone and says, oh, attention everyone, we're experiencing a little bit of turbulence right now. Please fasten your safety belts and I'll try to go to a higher elevation. That's psychological safety. You're thinking to yourself, okay, the pilot kind of knows what's going on. He's kind of have a hope message. He's going to go a little bit higher. Hopefully it'll stop. That's creating psychological safety. If your organization is creating psychological safety, people around you are feeling a little bit more of an ease, even though there's a turbulent situation. The last thing I want you to do is be the pilot that comes on the intercom and says, oh my gosh, we could crash. I'm not sure what to do. I'm going to just try to do whatever I can to make it different. You don't want to do that. You want to have transparent, honest communication, but you want to stay emotionally intelligent as well. So thank you for joining us on our webinar of psychological safety. If there's more information that you would like, you can please reach out, of course, to us at NICC Business and Community Solutions. We're offering several webinars focusing on mental health as well as brain health, as well as creating cultures to help continue to improve your businesses. So you can reach out again to me, or you can reach out to Bailey Kloft, who is again coordinating a lot of these efforts. So thanks for joining us. Hope you're having yourselves a great day, and I hope to hear from you and see you soon. Thanks so much for being here.